Looks like Martha might be the only other person that can join us. So,
Oh,
Catherine and I both missed the 2:15, so we were on it too. So, we just wanted to know if either you or Rachel sort of know where things are with this report and maybe what's missing. That feels like the main thing we need to be focused on. But if Damon and Lucy know all that, then I guess we do need to reschedule because we don't know. Catherine and I helped with the asset mapping, and Catherine, of course, did the survey and a write up from that. But we don't know what the next steps are.
Yeah,
and I have not.
so
Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
yeah, I'm a bit uncertain with where we stand with the report as well. I know you both were working on it and we had sent the survey out, and I imagine we'd go over like the updates, and I saw Catherine's report that she put together, which looks awesome. But as it sits, I don't know where everything else is at. And I know I don't believe Tom Campbell is going to be able to join us. I don't think many others are going to be able to join us as well. Because I think Jim is also another one that wasn't going to be able to make it today.
Right.
Yeah.
Is
So
there
do
a
we
draft
want to
on the
potentially
shared
try to
drive?
reschedule?
Uh-oh, I think we lost Rachel.
Oh, do we know, is there a draft on the shared drive? Like a Google Doc?
I'm not aware of if there is.
And I'm in my car, so I can't pull up my computer. I mean, I'm gonna be home in a minute, but
Okay, well, maybe
yeah, we
Rachel
lost.
will jump back on. Yeah, Rachel will jump back on. Maybe she can check. So Andy and is it Caroline or Carolyn?
Caroline, thank you.
Caroline.
Hey, yeah,
Yeah.
hi. I'm in
Hi.
the car too, so I'm sorry I'm not using video right now.
No
Probably
Yeah,
worries.
best for all involved, let me just say. It's
that's
a gift
right.
to you all. It's a gift to you. Yes.
So I guess
Same
just we'll
here.
just do a quick update since our chairs can't be here, but you may have been seeing that Catherine created the survey and we sent it out multiple times to election officials. Catherine, did we get more the second time around? I know we only had 17 before you resent it.
Yeah, so the additional outreach did help, and in the end, we had 23 responses out of 100, so 23%.
Okay. And
And you
so
know,
do you want to
that's
give so sorry, Jennifer.
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask her for the high level takeaways so that we would all know
Yep.
kind of where things.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we had good representation from across the state, a little bit in the mountains, a little bit in the Piedmont, a little bit on the coast and the plains. We asked, just about 8 or 9 questions. We wanted to keep it pretty simple, but one of the big ones we wanted to know was, is there somebody on your team whose job description includes outreach and education? And about 54% said no. So over half. And then we also wanted to know, because these things cost money, do you have a budget for this? And another very telling response is nearly half spends less than $1,500. There was a few that had more in the $1,500 to $3,000 range, and then one that has more than 10,000. That it was Wake County. And some of the narrative feedback we got back, we asked 2 questions. What would help you do a better job with civic education and outreach? And one was kind of, consistent materials, maybe from the state that we could customize and make our own. And then a lot was media coverage and help with outreach So training the groups that are already set up to do outreach with a lot of the basics, maybe getting them some of these materials that the state had prepared, so that they could be, another partner in getting the information out. We also asked about best practices. One that was identified is the Election Academy. That's in Forsyth,
Foresight.
Forsyth County. Also, the training that I mentioned, and then a few places highlighted their specialty websites for early voting and how to get registered. So I think even though we only had a 24% response rate, the information that we got is very helpful and works in tandem with the asset mapping that Leslie and Lucy did.
Great. And so we did do an asset mapping to see what civic education organizations already exist. It's not an extensive list. That was also a question that we asked in the survey and didn't get hardly anything more. So there's clearly a need for more civic education in our state. Just as a plug, my organization partnered with others to just finish the North Carolina Civic Health Index. One is done every 5-6 years with the National Conference on Citizenship. We found the same thing. There's a woeful lack of civic education outside of classrooms that are teaching the structures of government, right? The things about like elections and understanding what's on the ballot. So we did put together that list. We did it in 3 categories, sort of higher ed, K through 12, and then nonprofit, public sector. And so we don't know from Damon or Lucy yet what the structure is going to be for our report, but I don't know how other folks feel, but it seems we've got enough to make some pretty good recommendations based off of just these 2 approaches. So I guess we can just share that with Lucy and Damon, because we're not really sure what the next steps are. If anybody has more knowledge about where we're headed as a group before it's due at the end of the month. Does anybody know anything more than we do?
Well, remember, by when it's June 30th, it's due. We know it's not going to be a polished final product. So it sounds like you've got some great research and some, a lot of things backing up what you're saying. And, most surveys, like 24% return is not horrible. And I remember looking at where the folks responded from, and it was a pretty good demographic mix of large and small, urban, rural. I thought it was actually pretty representative. That's not statistically analyzed, but at glance. And I think that the main thing for the July 15th is going to be, what are the big ideas? Civic education clearly stands out. Funding clearly stands out. So I think that the other thing that's going to be discussed a little bit July 15th is, every committee is going to turn their report in, and the steering committee is going to look through things and tweak and look at what news is coming in and look at the public perception from the town halls, and all that's going to be part of it too. But during that time is the opportunity for civic education. And so the other thing that we are going to ask commission members is, who of you is comfortable talking about this work, talking about your confidence in the system, what you learned, because we're going to try to get people on, radio and TV and that kind of try to supplement the civic education of those few organizations who are doing it.
So Jennifer, I did want to ask, so so for everyone else who may not have been part of that meeting, the chairs, I don't chair this committee, I chair another committee, gave our sort of status update earlier this week. And what
Mhm.
came out of almost half, it felt like, of the committees was the need for civic education on their topic, right? So for folks who were like, election security, people need to know more about that, such and such. So I do wonder if there's value in our report, because we focus on the structures, like how do we get it out there and what's already available to our folks to do it. It feels like we
Mhm.
probably need a final bullet that says, and these are some of the key areas where civic
Mhm.
education is needed. Folks talked about the cybersecurity, the concerns about chain of
Custody.
whatever, the custody, and just some of
Yeah.
the really sort of tactical areas where more knowledge is needed. So it feels like that should be in our part of the report that just says, and these are some of the key areas based off of the rest of the commission, uh, where this needs to begin, or at least be most emphasized.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. These are the most confusing areas for voters. And I think I
Mhm.
remember seeing, I can't remember, it was the Meredith poll or one of the polls recently where people said, what are the obstacles to voting? And one of the biggest things that confused people was that their districts kept changing. They didn't know who they were voting for anymore because the lines kept moving. Um, so yeah, I think highlighting the areas, cybersecurity, people don't trust machines, those kind of things is like also a great idea. We're a state that has a lot of changes all the time, and that's confusing for people.
Right. All right. So does anybody have any other thoughts? Because I guess we'll just give those notes to Damon and Lucy as they bring the report to closure, or finish out what they're
I got
doing.
a couple of side things. One, I'll emphasize that 24% isn't bad. In the 20s range for elite surveys, and you can debate whether or not, county election officials count as elite, but elite surveys with a 20 some odd percent response rate is pretty normal. So that's because the basic idea is that those folks are busy. They're used to getting contacted by a whole bunch of different folks. They, feel they don't have the time or inclination to answer everything that comes their way. So I wouldn't feel too bad about 24 or 23%. I do know, and this is kind of tangential to what we're doing here, but I am going to be having my own op-ed, which is basically like, I haven't figured out the exact title, but it's roughly along the lines of why is this right-winger working with the Carter Center, where I'm going to be touching on some of the issues about why there needs to be agreed upon rules and because when people don't have confidence in the system, it drives down turnout, it drives down belief and support of the system, those sorts of things. So that'll be out. So it won't be exactly it's external to this, but I'm going to have my own thing coming out that is going to be along similar lines, I think, of what we're doing here. And obviously I'll if there's something I can do to help with our own stuff, I'll do that as well.
That's
That's
great. Yeah,
awesome.
thanks for the reassurance about the 24%. And you should think about making a TikTok based on that op-ed, Andy, reach the younger people.
Alas, I have a personal boycott of TikTok, but I'll do it in other ways if I can.
Yeah, I know that was a recommendation of one of the committees, was leveraging social media more intentionally around civic education, or particularly in North Carolina. So yeah, all of that needs to be figured out, but I think that it certainly can be part of our recommendations.
Yeah, well, one thing that struck me by one of the directors was people don't read newspapers anymore. We need other ways of reaching them. So, the phase 2 part of this committee is about, doing the outreach for this year, about the work of the commission. So I think that there should be some thought put into that as well, the different modes of reaching people.
Mhm. Yeah, Definitely,
We're still-
right? Because there's
still
still some
trying to-
people that aren't comfortable with social media. So we still got other audiences that we don't want to neglect. If we do a full scale sort of civic education campaign, I think we'd have to think about all the pathways to dissemination. And I think we talked earlier on this committee about, and we tried to be intentional in the asset mapping, who are some of the key partners in other languages, other communities of throughout our state who speak other languages. So we'd have to do a lot more around that, I think, as well. Jennifer, I'm sorry. I feel like I jump in every time you're trying to jump in.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we're also still looking for influencers. And Andy, you are an influencer in your circle, folks who read your journal, etc. So that's awesome. Other people, other public figures, trying to stay away from current politicians because that makes it look partisan. Unless you can get a Republican and Democrat on the same video, saying we both support, transparency in elections. We think of a good system. If we can get that to happen, that's awesome. But if you have an uncle who's like coach for a big team or something, get a good sports player, those kind of things. Think about influencers. We might be able to. I know last time, I think 2022, Steph Curry did one on his own. Just talked about you should vote. It's your civic duty, and you should trust the system. And I think he just did that on his own, but which is great. We need more of that. I think it'd be fun to do kind of fun fact of the day, about elections. The Board of Elections did Mythbusters last time, but they really don't have a lot of traction on Twitter X. So you're right, Leslie. We need more than just social media.
Mhm. Yeah. And then the question is who develops the materials, right? That for me is the bigger, it's like who's gonna own it, right? We know that, League of Women Voters and some of the other groups, of course, try to do the issue guides and some of this other stuff, but this whole messaging around these areas that people don't have confidence in, I don't know who writes the message. Maybe that's the role of this commission, to make sure it's nonpartisan and doesn't have trigger words or whatever, whatever it is that would make people shut down. That's what I'm not clear about, like who's going to do it.
We have the Carter Center has a media team that can screen that kind of stuff. They hired them to work in all 6 states. And yes, we have to produce the initial content, but they would do things like look at it for trigger words and, nonpartisan feeling and images that, resonate, that kind of thing. So we have that kind of professional editor, I guess you would call it. They're supposed to also help us find, more outlets for stuff, but I think, in North Carolina, we have a pretty good sense of where the newsletters and online sources that people read are. So.
All right. So Rachel, is there anything else that we can accomplish without Damon and Lucy today, or any other thoughts we need to?
Yeah, I don't believe so. I can pass along the meeting notes, the recording, and then all the report that you all have put together to Lucy and Damon, and then kind of get their feedback. And if they think that they would like to schedule just kind of a follow-up meeting between now and the 30th, then we can circle back with you all.
Okay, and just a point of clarification, like there's no report yet. There's just the research.
Yes, just the research you've put together. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, there's not a template or anything yet. Nobody started writing it.
No, yeah, there's no like official report as of yet. I would say what Catherine has put together is the most official thing that we have so far.
Okay.
Yeah, and Leslie has a great document with the asset mapping that's in the folder. But Leslie, do you want to do an email or reply also? Everybody has that, or drop a link?
Yeah, I can send that link to everybody as soon as we're done, just so you see it.
And the other thing is, please, everybody on this committee, we want to see you July 15th in Salisbury. So, if you need to stay overnight, those rooms are paid for. Just let Rachel know. They're trying to, Catawba College is trying to confirm that with a hotel by, I think, the end of either this week or next week. I guess it'll be the end of next week. So if you can, let Rachel know. Really try to come in person, because watching by Zoom is just, I mean, you can watch, but it's not as participatory. And we want to also have those, good conversations where we get some collaboration among the committees. Because again, we do want to continue with civic education even after your draft reports are done. So it's a team effort.
All right, well, I think, sorry, I just jumped in. I was like, well, I guess I'll keep us moving. But thanks everyone, and have a wonderful weekend. We'll connect soon.
Thank y'all.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.